Start anywhere. Camera. Now that it's started, start spotlight me. We're gonna move over. Don't get me started on hair. In the last few weeks, mine's gotten better. Like pretty soon, I'll have to move my part over a couple more inches. Yeah. And then I'll start investing in hairspray. Creativity cycles. That one was really interesting to see as I watch. Like it's like Thomas Edison. And I've got a few others where you can see like what sleep schedule like because they document that stuff. And what you'll find is like people have their normal sleep schedules, but whenever you actually take charge of it, and start playing with it, you'll find that there are certain amounts of sleep that are required for certain things that you have to do, like more cognitively intensive. It's better off you are to get rest. If you're not doing something like that, it's like you'll find that the times of the days and the amounts are something that's going to be very individualized in each and every one of you. So it's like if you play with it, eventually you'll find what works best for you, and you'll actually increase your efficiency massively. It's like during those times where I'm sleeping 2 hours, writing 2 hours, and doing it as a cycle. It's like I can write an entire publishable manuscript in just a couple weeks. I mean, I did my dissertation like that in the course of about 3 months. Like most people, it takes about 2 years to write it. I just had to spend those few years running data because I did my own data. So I had to get my data, get it to where I could run it and run it in that same amount of time and write it. So it was a pain in the ass. But you'll have times where you have stuff like that in life as well. Today, so last time we started talking about what? Murder and homicide. Just skip a bunch of letters right there. Homicide. Yeah. So homicides, basically anytime you're dealing with the death of a person, right? Caused by another. Suicides is if you do it yourself. There's a whole bunch of them, like matricide, patricide, regicide, a whole bunch of them, right? For different relationships people can have, that kind of stuff. You kill all kinds of things, all kinds of other people. We talked a little bit about, who was it? Here, me. You guys see the PowerPoint. The definition of death, that's what we dealt with. We focused last time a little bit on this, right? You know, you're dealing with someone who maybe wants to die. Is that the same thing? Are we still talking about murder? Maybe yes, maybe no. Not always the same thing. Facets of another, right? So you don't, another person, death. And talk about another human being. So if we're talking about homicide, another human being, you're gonna die, you have to be alive, right? Like cut off a dead person's head. Have I committed murder? What have I done? Abused the corpse. Right? Unless I killed him in the first place, that's a different story. Horrible story. Hear that story? Yes, no. Okay, this is a really bad one. It was in the last couple of years. There was a story where a mortician, female mortician, became pregnant. Yeah, that's all I need to say for that, right? If you're close enough to after death, maybe it was a medical examiner. I want to say it was a mortician, no. Could have been a medical examiner. If you're close enough to after death, body parts still work. Rigor mortis sets in, that kind of thing. She found that out. Yeah, that was a hell of a thing because they actually ran DNA tests to see. It's like, yeah, this is the dead guy's. That was after he was dead. Yeah, that shit can happen. Okay, so we're talking about death, we're talking about life. What is this? what is it to be alive? We were talking about it some last time. We were talking about suicides and pulling the plug and that kind of stuff. What is it to be alive? Yes.
A heartbeat. That, I mean, like, your heart's not beating, usually you classify as dead.
Heartbeat.
Yeah, brain activity. That's good. Big Texas.
You would have said voted, I'd be like, no, that's not it. You can do that forever.
Doesn't somebody have to like legally declare you as dead before you?
So how do we do that? If you're missing for a long time. That becomes a question. Sometimes that is the answer. Sort of like if I asked, I'll probably asked before in here. If I said, you guys been to Walmart, right? As you're leaving, somewhere on that wall that's the same side has customer service, there'll be a big placard kind of thing that's got missing and lost. Huh? Yeah, there's gonna be a good number of those that are this, right? How many, we don't know. Never know. So how many people are actually dead? Don't know. But missing, yes. What other things? Okay. Most of the focus on this question can relate to a few different issues that society is really debating right now. Some of that we talked about last time, suicides. The other one, we'll go into more of that probably after we finish the next topic. The next thing. We'll leave that up there. That topic. That's a hard topic. Abortion. Whenever I use a textbook, there's a few different ways I approach this topic because it always comes up in this section, right? We have to talk about it now because we need to have a clear understanding of how it works. Well, we should say whether it works, how it works, and why it's set up the way that it is right now. Usually the preface is to say, you get a textbook, like a standard criminal law textbook, you get the chapter of murder, guess what? This is gonna be in there, right? That's gonna be in there that you wanna talk about. There's a few different ways, try not to yawn. A few different ways to start that conversation. I like to do. I'm not gonna talk about any of these things just yet. Now, this is what I want you to do for anything that you ever deal with in terms of, okay, if I don't fully understand it, someone has a different opinion, or there's conflicting information, right? Have I lectured you on conflicting information before? Maybe not, you guys shut up. Okay, so anytime you get conflicting information, you got, ooh, here's a fun one. I didn't ask what's going on in the world. If I said, Trump, what's going on in the world? Found guilty. What was he found guilty of? Was it market manipulation? Basically what he was doing was, and you can find audio of him, I've heard it before where he's talking about it. I can't remember if it was a deposition or if it was something else. He's talking about the value of his properties. How much are his properties worth? A lot, right? And there's a conversation he has like, well, filling out forms, you're asking me how much it's worth, it's like, okay, how much is it worth? Well, today I feel like it's 1.3 billion. Maybe it's 1.29, whatever the hell, I forget what number she was given. But that's essentially what he's talking about. You're doing it on how you feel, and you have such a massive amount of property or money or whatever, it's like, that's gonna cause a significant change in the market. Right? And you're doing that on a whim. Technically, that's criminal, right? If you're doing it with the purpose of market manipulation, yeah, that's illegal, right? Technically, it's illegal. Is it something that he meant to do? It's like, unknown. What are your possibilities? One, he meant to do it and it's for his own benefit. Okay, you can check, see if it's for his own benefit, with the intent you'll have to figure out. The other side of the argument. When you're dealing with massive amounts of money, anything after the point, you start getting a few decimal points down, you're talking about billions, say you move 3 decimal points down, you're still dealing with millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? That's essentially a rounding error when you're talking about billions, right? If I ask you, how many of you have change in your pockets? Most people don't carry money anymore, but if you have change in your pockets, like you throw it out, it's like, okay, how much money do you have? Oh, it looks like 25 cents. What is it? There's about 6, 7 pennies here, maybe a nickel or two, and maybe a dime or something. It's like, I can stop, I can count it, I can compare it, I can see how much that's worth if I look across the world and see the value of the dollar. What is it really worth? Fuck all, I don't know. Right? So maybe it was just an honest thing where he doesn't really care. If I said politics, if I said the other side of the aisle, Biden and Burisma, you know, if I said Burisma, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Okay. Ukraine oil company, you can find audio, video of Biden saying to a crowd of people, we had $1 billion in loan guarantees for Ukraine. They had a prosecutor who was not doing his job. I told them, you're not getting the $1 billion unless you fire this guy. That's a quid pro quo. That's illegal. You have no authority to do that. Right? And he talks about how he did that. This guy gets removed. Maybe it's legitimate. Maybe this guy is a really bad, corrupt guy being removed. Maybe he's investigating the company that you're taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from a year. Which one's going on? They could both be going on. Either one. Which one is it? Depends on which side of the story you're listening to. If you want to have full understanding, you investigate, you get both sides, you put them together and you figure that shit out, right? It's the same thing your eyes do every single day. Here, can you catch? I threw that kind of shitty. Sorry about that.
Okay.
But the reason you can tell it's coming at you, yeah, throw back. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten that. Usually I'm clumsy too. You'll see me drop it 3 times before I get to class. Depth perception. Virtual reality. You get to put those things on, you start getting sick. Why is that? Yeah, all the visual cues you're getting send your mind for a loop because it's trying to figure out what the hell, where's the danger coming from, and I'm moving and you're not, right? That depth perception only exists because you have 2 different eyes. You close one eye, your ability to catch massively decreases. You can still do it, just you're not gonna be as good at it. You won't have that. How far is it really, right? Do this, play with someone who's got, play catch with someone who's got one eye, right? Football. Get a normal football, right? Get a smaller one that matches it almost exactly. Halfway through the game, switch balls without even paying attention. See what happens. You're gonna end up hitting them. Waiting for it to get bigger. Shit, that's a smaller ball. It's like, that shit, that's not cool. Like, you'll catch it, but you'll throw them off. You'll have a better chance hitting. Ask me how I know. No. Find out what the sides are and start breaking it down from there. First step. This is the one you're familiar with. What's the big debate related to abortion?
If that baby's a person yet, whenever it's a fetus.
I like where you're going. I'm more in terms of society and its debates right now. If I said political debates related to this, it's a question of what side of the aisle you're on. What are those 2 sides? Don't say red versus blue, say pro. Okay. Pro, misspelled it. Pro. We'll say, I'm gonna go choice or life on left or right. Let's say choice first, spelled it 2, and then pro life. Okay. First thing is we'll take one of the straw men out. This is not abortion and pro forced pregnancy. Right? But yeah, those are part of it. I showed you a little bit of that last time. You find people who celebrate this. It's like, okay, something's fucked up there. You'll find people who see it that say that this is the case too. It's like, yeah, that baby's still alive. It doesn't matter who it's in or how it got there. Yeah, no, you carry it. It's like, yeah, that's a really bad place to be. Like, no and no. That's the way it should be for most people, but there's all kinds of opinions are like assholes. Everybody has them, right? These people tend to be assholes. We're not going to deal with them just yet. We will get to those situations at some point, but we'll start here. Okay? %, 100%. 0. How strong are your opinions? Somewhere in that range, right? I am fully in support of it on one side or the other. It could be any person you come up with. They're going to fall in this range somewhere. Most people, even if they've got a really strong opinion, usually it's like there's some instances where you're like, okay, in this situation, you move over here, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're not really cared right now so much about how strong that is, but is it 0.01% on either side? That is the case. If you support one side more than the other, classify yourself as that side when I ask the next question. Okay, which house do you place yourself in? Those of you online, I want to chat upright. So let me do that. And for the purpose of this, it's like I honestly don't care what side you fall on. For the purpose of this, it really doesn't matter. It's just going to be outlining what the arguments are, and then we'll just discuss them and see what we see what people know. Okay, I've got chat up. Let's move this back here so I can see it. Can I make it bigger? Not really. Yay. Well, that's about this. All right. So if you can online, indicate whether you're pro-choice or pro-life in the chat. For those of you in class, if you're pro-choice, raise your hand. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And I'll add you guys online here in just a second if you sound off in the chat. Those of you who are pro-life, raise your hand. 2. Okay. Online, we got a third. A couple more people, we'll see if they sound off. We got 11 over here now. Still 2 people were waiting here. I'll give them a second. All right, if you don't feel comfortable sounding off, that's fine too. All right. Reasons. Question mark. There's more of you on the pro-choice side. Why?
Incest.
For the health of the mother.
Rape, incest.
Things like ectopic pregnancies that are unviable.
Yeah.
But not even just that, like if a parent isn't ready for a child, giving them up for adoption is way worse than getting an abortion. Because if you give them up for adoption, who knows what's going to happen? Most foster parents beat on the children anyway. So, I mean, what would you rather have? Your child getting beat on or
No child at all.
no child at all?
That's a hell of a question. It really is, right? There are
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like,
It's like
okay, how
who
much
knows if
sex
they
abuse is
in a
there?
foster home?
How much regular abuse is there? How much just cruelty is there? How many people are doing it just for fucking money?
Majority.
Yeah. So then you have a house that's not probably in the best of condition, isn't sizable, and you got 8 kids running around in it, right? Maybe you got 3 rooms in it, hopefully you do, so we can split, hey, parents, boys, and girls, it's like, maybe they don't have that, right? Not gonna be good. And there are plenty of situations where the best thing that we can do is manage all the shit options, right? Those are struggles in life, I'm sure you already had, right? I have these 3 options, they all suck. Which one sucks the least? Anyone here, let's see, if this is 2003, last time we voted was 2000. Anyone was old enough to vote in the 2000 election? Okay,
That was.
yeah, anytime you vote, it's like that for most people. It's like, which of these people is the least worst? I don't like any of them. Do I go red, blue, green, whatever? It's like, yeah. There are plenty of places where there's not gonna be good choices, and this is one of those where that's kind of the case. It's a shit situation to be in, and everything related to it's gonna suck. Okay, so we got rape, incest, mother's health, viability. You could also say that's also including babies' health. You said circumstance. Preparation, ability, that kind of thing. What else?
Depending on where you are, like access to work. Not having this.
Okay. Lack. Access. Birth control. Birth control is a hell of a thing.
Didn't they take those away? Or like the pills? Or is it the Plan Bs they took away?
It was Plan B for the most states. It's like Plan B is where you start running in some questionable territory.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that in a little, well, we may get to that today. We'll see where you guys take it. And then, once we finish with that, then I'll add in some stuff. What you guys didn't think of that I had, or if you guys had anything else I didn't think of, see if I can find some more stuff. But, okay, access to birth control is one of those things too. That one's interesting because, guy online, I do like listening to him. Jordan Peterson, you ever heard of him? Yeah, psychologist, he's famous. So he basically monetized his class lessons, and there you go, now he's rich. Like, you can do that. I don't want to, because now he can't be hired anywhere, so if he wants to actually get involved in the research stuff that he likes, he's not gonna be able to do that ever again, probably. He was one of the first people to point out facts like, yeah, that's only like 60 years ago. Now 70, right? 70 years, that's how long we've had to understand how that affects basically the entire way human life exists, right? Because, well, the whole pregnancy thing is a hell of a drain on resources, it's a hell of a drain on time. And for all of human history, all of female humanity was subject to it. Like that, everything is related to that, right? All of it, everything. Your entire life's gonna focus on it. Your death will probably be related to it, that kind of thing. We're gonna have a few decades to figure that out. We don't do it well. We only have it for, there are a few different types. But yes, access is not always easy.
You don't think like a big cloud right now would be thinking so.
Yeah.
Which is directly in contrast.
Yeah. Do you know why that is?
Higher access to birth control would lower abortion.
You know why that is? Okay. Something to think about. We'll talk about that eventually. If I don't remember to bring it up, bring it back up and I'll talk about something I've already been talking about. Okay. Other reasons.
I think that states having the ability to force women to go through a traumatic and dangerous process without their consent is borderline authoritarian at times.
Yeah. What the fuck is government doing here?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a question right there, right? Why do we got government involved in this? Not what I'd want, right? State. Election season's coming up, so you're seeing more stuff that's political. My favorite ad that I've seen so far, was, can't remember the state. But in it, what it is, it's a depiction of a lady who's, when I say lady, I should say, borderline juvenile female, sitting in a doctor's office, talking with a doctor. Yeah, yeah. And so like halfway through, they start talking about it, and in comes old white politician in a suit saying, no, you can't do that. That's illegal. I'm watching you, that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, that's really creepy. It really is, right? Do we need the government here? Some will say yes, some will say no, right? We'll deal with. We'll hit this one first and we'll come back to this one. Because this is a hell of a question for both sides, right? Basically what you end up with is, you know, what's on my mind, I will go. The relationship between this and this tends to be religious, right?
It wasn't a religious issue.
Yeah. 50s when birth control came out, 60s when everybody started having sex and doing drugs openly. That's what changed, right? When I show you a video related to this, because I'll show you one. I'll show you probably excerpts from it, and I'll give you the link for the whole video so you can watch the whole thing. It's from, it might have been the 60s, could have been the 50s. One of the things they talk heavily about are Catholicism. Why? Because in this country, Catholics at the time were the predominant religious group, which means they're your voting bloc. Their religion when it comes to life is that's not up to us to control whatsoever, right? So they're this because this means we're controlling it. This also means we're controlling it, right? Here's a hell of a question to think about. The birth control you take, how long do you have to go off of it before you get pregnant again if you decide to?
Depends on what type of birth control.
You can miss one time.
Yeah, it can depend on the type of birth control, how long you've been taking it, and your own body, because everybody's body is different, right? So it's like, it is a hell of a thing. Miss it once, you could be pregnant. Take it,
You can still be
you
pregnant.
can still get pregnant, yeah.
Even in
Yeah, all of the methods fail. So there's always that possible. You can do everything that you want, you in your control, and it still doesn't work out, right? Yeah.
I think, so it goes with the circumstance.
Yeah.
Portion too, but, if a mother doesn't want to be a mother, then they're not going to be a good mother. And, I don't know, if you don't wanna raise a kid in this world, then you shouldn't have to. That's just my take on it.
Would you call that desire? Yeah, that one has more negative, I guess, perceptions to it. Most everything we do is related to this.
But I just don't get it because people make fun of people that are not good mothers, but yet you want them to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why are you making fun of them for not being a good mother or not being able to provide for their child?
Yeah.
But you're gonna give them hell for.
No, you hit something really, really good there too. Idiocracy.
in the story, isn't it where they're all like, I don't know, that one guy gets translated to Luger and it's like all stupid.
Yes,
That's fine.
yes. It's comedy. If I said Beavis and Butthead, you guys would recognize that, right? Okay, same guy is behind that movie. Whole principle is that think it spends probably the first 5 to 10 minutes of the film, and it's set in current era. And it's following 2 families. The high socioeconomic status, the intelligent, the educated. It's like, what are we gonna do? Okay, well, right now, work, I'm focusing on my career. I'm gonna think about those things right now. Whenever life is stable and I can afford, I'm gonna have kids. And it bounces to the other family and then comes back, and at each stage it does this, but I'm gonna outline the whole process from each side first. So they're concerned about income, resources, standards, quality of life, that kind of, those things matter. That's this too, right? Put my work first, my career first, those types of things. They get all that stuff settled. By the time that they get to the point at which they decide, maybe I might involve myself in this process. I'm gonna go and see if I can get pregnant, right? Next time I think they popped in, it's like, yeah, we're having some difficulties, it's just not getting pregnant. Next one, can't remember if they did the fertilization stuff, the in vitro stuff, IVF. You don't, that is extremely expensive. Just a phone call, I don't care, stop calling. Vitro fertilization, how much does that cost?
10,000
Fucking ton.
per round.
Yeah, each round is extremely expensive. I knew a lady, she waited till she was 40. And that was too late, right? It's one of those things, it's like, that's really shitty. It's like you did everything right, and guess what? Life just fucked you over, right? Spent, there's a few $100,000. They made a lot of money, right? She really made sure she and her husband had their careers on fucking point, right? He brought in well over, over 150. She brought in at least 90 herself. And that's just baseline pay, not the extra stuff that they do, right? That'd have been a great place to live. Maybe. It's like, in terms of resources, yes. In terms of actual child rearing, it's like, well, that's a different thing. People figure that out over time. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nothing happened. Ended up having to have some medical complications that led to yanking everything out. It's like, yeah, that sucks. That's what happened with the affluent family. No kids. Waited too long. That's it. That's the end of that line. The other family was following was in a trailer park. The male had made a series of life choices that were extremely poor, which is why he was in said trailer park for an extremely long period of time. At which point in time he picked up 2 or 3 relationships with other people in similar circumstances who had nothing. They didn't care at all about quality of life. They didn't care about any of that. They just were fulfilling that, the desire aspect, right? That came many children because no one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck. You ended up with 18 children, and that stuff happens. I love my family. I've got 5 kids. That's abnormal. You won't find that in too many people at this level. I go and look at my older brother who has a high school degree. Guess how many kids he has? He has 10. Yeah. He's produced twice as many kids as I have. Yeah. Struggles in life on the daily just to make basic necessities. I still struggle with some of that stuff sometimes, right? Because that's just life. That's an everyday thing. You follow that out a few generations, what's our population look like? That's why I have this conversation in here. Why? Because I do want you guys to go out and have kids. Because in a generation, 1, I'd like to still have a job. 2, it's like, fucking life depends on it. Okay? That's what happened here. If the people making shitty decisions outpace those that are making the good decisions, guess what? Life gets harder. There are some arguments. That is one of the part of the reasons why we're having as many issues as we're having in society right now. The other part is corruption, people hoarding money and that kind of stuff. All those things are true. They take place all the time. Hell of a movie though. Hilarious to watch. If you got free time, I think it's on No, I'm not answering you. YouTube, no, I think it's on YouTube if you pay, but it's out there. Help move. Birth control circumstances.
Those lower funded areas are also typically where there's less access.
Yes. Yes, there's gonna be less access. I'll think about information. I'm gonna write information up here. How many people lack information? Good God, yes. My favorite thing that I listen to if I ever have free time is like crazy stories on the internet. They're just hilarious. One of my favorite ones was fertility clinics. How many times do you go to an area where, and it's typically, there it's gonna be this, but very sheltered, not explained the birds and the bees adequately by their parents. They don't know how to actually get someone pregnant. It's like, that's not an uncommon thing in places where talking about this subject is completely off the table, right? Like, yeah, it's like there's been a couple instances where I've heard from fertility clinics where it's like, quite literally, it's like, yeah, they kept coming in here, finally I had to explain, it's like, yeah, no, penis goes in vagina, right? Penis stays in vagina till it's done. You got life. You do anything else, yeah, that's just not gonna work. It's just not, right? So there's a lot of lack of information out there. How much information is lacking? By the time we're done, you'll have a really good understanding of this. But just from a cursory outlook, like, yeah, this is really, really bad. You know this already. Okay. Pro-life people. Why?
So a couple of things. I definitely understand some situations and some circumstances. For example, rape, 100% understand.
Yeah.
It's traumatic. That's horrible. Shouldn't happen. However, I feel like a lot of it sometimes is just your responsibility when they're not having protected sex or safe sex, which leads to pregnancy, and they think they can just get rid of it and not have to worry about it. I don't think that's fair.
It does open the door for that.
Yeah.
Whenever you have it legal, there are gonna be those who don't wanna fuck around with this.
Right.
If it happens, flush it.
And that's another thing. And I understand the lack of access to birth control. Should be more access, but if it's that important to you, and if it's that much to you that you have to have sex, then I think that's another problem. I think that kind of goes back to the responsibility. You shouldn't just really need to have sex, and if you do, okay, whatever, we'll just kill the kid, it's fine. But I do understand that there should be more birth control, which would prevent that issue in the first place.
Yeah.
And then I have, like, for example, my oldest brother, I guess you could call an accident. He was an accident, but he's had a great life. He's actually about to have a baby in a couple weeks. And so I'm about to be an uncle. All these things are about to happen. That wouldn't have happened if his mom would have gotten an abortion.
Yeah.
And then one more thing, sorry, I don't mean to talk about it.
No, go ahead.
But my last thing, kind of going back to adoption and everything, is I agree that I think a lot of foster homes and a lot of adoption centers are abusive and horrible, and I don't like that. But I think in my mind, you're giving the baby a chance at least to maybe get in a good home, to maybe get a good life, then you are just killing it right away. But I do understand the scare and the fear of putting it through a traumatic childhood, but I feel like it's better to give them a chance than just to cut it off at all.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. If you're gonna weigh that, it's a really, really, really hard thing.
I feel like the biggest thing here is that if you bring all that stuff to the middle, they cancel each other out. Like all of those.
Yeah.
All of these things, like this information,
Mhm.
all this stuff, like neither of these things would even be a problem if they had that.
Yeah.
Do you know why we're starting it this way? So I can see what you guys know, so I can tell you everything you don't. Right? As much as that I know that you don't.
I think it's
And a
the
lot of
problem
it
about
does
it
do
being
that.
Politicized.
It
But
is.
since it's been politicized, everyone's like, oh, but everyone mostly believes the same thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, and it's gonna get worse in the next year.
I feel like they're looking at it as like one side. Like they're not looking at it as like to get pregnant, it takes a man and a woman.
Mhm.
And I feel like everyone's just looking at it as, well, the woman decided to spread their legs open, so now you gotta accept the responsibility. But it's like, well, the guy also didn't pull out, so he has to accept this
Yeah.
responsibility
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, the condom broke. It
Yeah.
didn't pull out. It's like, there's all kinds of, like, what is the stealthing thing? If I said that, you guys know what I'm talking about? Not heard that term. Okay, maybe you have. That's where you start out with one, the condom, and as soon as you get going and as soon as you can keep the person distracted, off it comes. Right? People do that. It's not a, like, an extremely common thing. Does it happen? Well, yeah, it does. Right? Yeah, that's a health thing too. Okay. In terms of, I'm not right, oh, there it is. Adoption. Chance. What kind of fate are you resigning that person to? I'm not talking about what they do. It's like, that is a very positive way to look at it. It's like, what can you do? It's like, okay, well, how many debts am I gonna saddle you with first, right? When I say it that way, what I mean is, what kind of circumstances are you gonna be born into? The adoption, like, yeah, you'll find massive abuses there. You'll find horrible conditions there. Some of the worst travesties befall any child. Will you find anything different in some children's biological homes? They live with their parent or parents, biological parents. Are there kids who go through that and worse? Yes, right? So whether you're here or whether you're here, it's like you're still gonna be dealing with shitty people, shitty parents. And sometimes they're just so shitty, it's unbelievable. You know, the parent who'd rather go out and buy their drugs than food. Right? The parent that, you know. All right, you guys are here. TV's on, I'll be back in a little while. 3 days later, oh, I should probably go check in on them. They're all under 5. There's food in the house, so they'll be just fine. That's how I was raised. That and much worse. A possibility here, more than what you got here, for the child, but then you're dealing with the parents, right? Here. It's like over here, more choices.
I think more people would be open to adoption if we start trying to reform our systems, but it's just probably.
Yeah. That's a whole thing. Mhm. Yeah, no. I mean, if you stop and think that we're only a couple generations from, we're going to experiment on kids to see what role human contact has for newborns. Like, that's kind of things that's happened in places like this. Study done on infants to see what's the difference between kids who we actually go in and touch and the ones that never get touched by a human at all for the first 6 months, year of their life. What happens? Yeah, they die. Even if they're fed, their needs are taken care of. You don't have that contact, they still die. Right? That was a study that was actually conducted. That's some pretty cruel stuff. So we're kind of nasty people. Those people who did that were people. That's all of us. Okay. Possibility, chance. Should be exceptions. There's responsibility. What other reasons? You were the 2, and then online. Other reasons?
Well, I thought of another thing. As far as lack of information goes, if they're getting pregnant and if they're having sex, they obviously know what they're doing. If they're just if they're every time having an abortion, having sex, getting pregnant, that continuous cycle, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, they didn't have the information.
Yeah.
Lack of information was there.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like this. In states where there are exceptions, what are the exceptions? It's gonna vary a lot. You know, are we talking about, you know, it's like a situation where I don't think any of them deal with multiple, right? They're not gonna regulate that. They're just gonna regulate access. exceptions. We'll talk about that for a second. We start talking about circumstances and things like that. It's like, okay. This one should qualify. Yes, this one qualifies. This one's qualifies. What circumstances should qualify?
Yeah, I agree. I think rape's a big one.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, so we got these qualify. Mother's health, we still said that, there's like, okay, if she carries the term, she's gonna die and the baby will die, or both. We gotta make a choice. In that instance, it's okay to select not the baby. Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Baby's massively deformed, won't survive. Probably won't survive the entire pregnancy. Is it okay to stop?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. I don't make enough money.
It's okay. to
Baby will
stop.
starve.
Yeah,
It's okay to stop.
yeah.
Okay, got some disagreements there, but that is something that could be considered, yes. What about psychological distress?
Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about that one for a second. What does that look like? When you say that, what does that look like in your head?
Are you talking about you're just too overwhelmed and you're too stressed out that you can't have a baby?
Yeah.
Or
It will cause you mental and emotional trauma.
Or a predisposition for postpartum.
Yeah, because I know my aunt, she had postpartum depression whenever she had her baby, and we all had to watch. We had to help
Yeah.
take care of her because she physically could not take care of
Yeah,
her child. Like,
Yeah.
she could not get out of
And at
bed.
that point, the baby's still suffering. So you
Yeah,
might as well
and the
just-
babies, it's like babies can sense when their mothers are feeling
Mhm.
down or like their environment is not right. So it's like,
That lack of connection causes ability to thrive with babies. It just depends. Children can go on, but like postpartum depression, it does cause the death of children.
yeah. The hormones and all that from during pregnancy, after pregnancy, the postpartum stuff, and yes, definitely. I'll back that up. Clarify one point. Postpartum would be after, so it'd be something you'd have to be aware of the risk going into, you wouldn't know to get there. So it'd be that one, yeah, you want to consider it. But there are also things that happen during pregnancy, all those hormone shifts where you can start having those depressive states and that kind of stuff while you're pregnant. Whether it's depression, emotional imbalances, suicide, those types of things. If you're pregnant and suicide, guess what? You don't have to worry about this anymore because you've done it too, right? So it's like, we want to avoid that. So what kinds of things cause mental and emotional distress? Do we need to get so far into it to say that, these types of things qualify and these don't?
I don't feel like people should say like anybody's problems are bigger than somebody else's problem, because I feel like everybody's problem is big in their eyes. So if somebody didn't have money compared to someone that has mental issues, I feel like if that person didn't have money and they didn't want to have a baby yet, I believe that they should have the choice to whether they want it or not.
Okay.
They really want to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, that's my alarm saying I'm about to. Okay, something to think about. I'm just talking about circumstances. Some of those exceptions that are advocated for are very, very, very valid. One of that. Some of them a little questionable. I've seen exceptions in there for things like she can't fit in your prom dress. I've heard people make arguments like that. You can't fit in your prom dress, you're pregnant, so pregnant, you can't fit in your prom dress, that's enough emotional distress. Yes, we need to stop this.
I think that comes back around to even like maturity levels, being able to take care of a child. If that's a problem.
you're a
you
juvenile.
Probably wouldn't be able to take care of a
You're
child.
a
That's why
juvenile.
having children.
Yeah, you're a juvenile. Should you even be able to make that choice? Because now it's like you're not an adult. You're making a life decision. It's gonna have an effect on you the rest of your life. Yes.
I'll make it quick, but I've also seen that the adoption process, I feel like it's really strict for just the way it is. If you have a prison record, can't adopt anybody. If you're a single mother and you don't make enough, or if you're single and you don't make a certain amount of money, you can't.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many
Oh, yeah.
things
There's a
that
lot
keep you from
And it takes
adoption.
so long.
It's-
Yeah, we don't do that particularly well. We're doing the best that we can right now. But is it enough to meet the problem? No, not at all. Probably never will be, because as soon as we open up more seats, it's like prisons. soon as there's a bed, we already have people to put in there, right? And so that's what will happen. We'll pick up with this next time. We'll see if there's any more topics you guys want to get into, and then I'll start breaking down a little bit more of these, and then I'll start showing you, stuff you don't know. Okay? All right. With that, have a great day, and I will see you next time.
You know what?
Yeah.
So, next week is good. Or we do.
We're running a little bit behind, so I've not posted anything out in a while. I probably will sit down. I'm thinking it'll probably be next week. And update the syllabi and then post out some more stuff.
Okay.
So right now we've been moving a little slower, so it's okay.
out.
But yeah,
I just didn't remember something, so I.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm not.
yeah, no, you're not missing anything. I've been slow because I've been slow to grade in some other classes. But yeah, we'll get back. Thank you.
You forgot to tell us our midterms next week.